afternoon again, everyone, and I hope you're all doing great this Friday afternoon. So, again, my name is May Thomas, and I am the Senior Marketing Specialist at the ISS. And again, I want to start again by thanking you for taking the time to join us today. And we are all excited to welcome you to our free webinar, Unlocking NEBOSH International Diploma for Occupational Health Safety Management Professionals, Essential Insights and Overview for Safety Leaders. Now, before we dive in, here are a few quick guidelines, as always, to help us make this event more enjoyable for everyone. All right? So number one, please mute your microphone during the presentation to avoid any background noise. And number two, ensure that your name, the display name, matches the one that you use during the registration. All right? And if you have any questions regarding the presentation, you may type them in the chat room and we will answer them later on during the question and answer portion. Cool? And lastly, feel free to keep your camera off, okay, if you prefer that, but would love to see your faces since we'll be posting snapshots of this event in all our social media platforms. All right, sounds good? Okay, awesome. Now, let's get started. Our speaker for today actually needs no long introduction as he is well known and loved by all our students. But of course, for those who have joined us for the first time, let me give a quick background regarding him. He is an approved NEBOSH instructor and examiner for IDIP or NEBOSH Diploma, IGC, IOG, and PSM. And he's also an ISO consultant who has helped implement ISO standards in various organizations. On top of that, he is, as I mentioned, most loved and a dedicated mentor who guided countless professionals towards achieving internationally recognized health and safety qualifications. So without further ado, let's all welcome our NEBOSH expert and unit manager for our e-learning department, Mr. Azhar Salim. Mr. Azhar? Mr. Azhar, we can't seem to hear you, or I can't hear you. Can everybody hear Mr. Azhar?
No. Cannot hear.
Yeah, Mr. Azhar, we cannot hear you. Still no audio, Mr. Azhar.
Also no voice.
Mm. All right. Let's just wait until.
Hello.
There you go.
Are you?
Okay. Okay. Good.
All right. Okay. Sorry for the inconvenience. I think we tested it earlier, but I don't know. Maybe the cable might have snapped in that case. So sorry, guys, for the inconvenience. Without further waiting, let us continue with our session. Thank you very much for your time and patience for this. Hopefully, at the end of the session, everybody would have learned something from that one because that is what we all are here for learning, right? So, guys, today the topic that I will be talking about is unlocking NEBOSH Level 6 International Diploma for Occupational Health and Safety. We will be going into the essential insights and overview, which are necessary for the people who want to embark on this journey in that regard, right? There was a time when IGC had a great value, and now IGC has a different value. Now IGC is the foundation that you can learn, and after building that foundation, the next step you can take is to embark on the level 6 diploma in that regard. So today I will try my best to explain to you this qualification. I will be talking about these topics today. Firstly, we'll have the course introduction. I will talk about the modules that are there within this course. I will talk about the assessment, which is the examination process for this one. And I will talk about the misconceptions for this course and also what is the recipe for success in that regard. how you as a student can, embark on that journey and you can succeed in that regard. Because, for many of the students, it is a shock. They get registered in the course, but when they start the classes and when they see the material, they are overwhelmed in that regard. And they think it was an easy course, but later on they realize, no, it is like a proper 2-year associate program or a bachelor degree program in that regard. So in today's session, I will try to give you information beforehand. So when you plan to do this course, or even if you are still studying, you can realign yourself accordingly so that you can reach the success, which is the completion of this course in that regard. So all my students know, all the session are open house session. You can always drop your question within the Zoom chat in that regard, and I will be responding to that one. So you don't have to wait till the end of the session. We will also take the question at the end, but even during the session, if you might be having any questions in that regard, you can please ask that one as well. Okay. So guys, let us start with the first thing, that is the course introduction. So I will try to help you understand what this course is all about, the duration of this course, the topics of this course, everything. So first, I would like to clarify the complete name of this course, right? The name that NEBOSH is using now for this course, that is based on 2020 specification, NEBOSH Level 6, International Diploma for Occupational Health and Safety Management Professional, and that is denoted by IDIP, right? The previous name of this course was International Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety. That was based on 2015 specifications in that regard. Why we have to change the name? There was a complete story behind it because IOSH had stopped recognizing the qualification which was international, which was out of UK. Then NEBOSH went to OFQUAL, which is Office of the Qualification in UK. They obtained their accreditation and they changed the course according to the standards of call, and that is now is recognized by IOSH. So if you complete NEBOSH IDIP in that regard, you are registered as a certified IOSH professional in that regard. So that was the background of that one. The current, the material and everything that we study, it basically started in April 2021 in that regard. The students who enroll in this course are mostly health and safety professional. Over the period of time, the criteria for the health and safety professionals competency has been elevating. There was a time we were having, health and safety person even without NEBOSH IGC, then that qualification came into being and people realized that, okay, this minimum knowledge person should have to become a health and safety officer in that regard. And then this diploma came in, and that diploma was required for, the health and safety managers. But now the market dynamics are changing. The companies, the employers are now expecting the health and safety engineers, our supervisor, our assistant manager, our lead position role to have this qualification. And most of my students, they are safety officer who want to progress further in their career by completing this qualification in that regard. There are some safety managers as well who had become manager by virtue of their experience, but now they have to complete this qualification because it is required by the organization, even required by Ashkal as well for all the health and safety managers. So we need to understand that, once we have obtained a qualification, that will not remain forever. If we have completed IGC, we should plan the next level course, that is obviously the level 6 diploma in that regard. The purpose of this course, obviously, a person having this qualification, he should have the necessary knowledge and the practical skills needed for the health and safety management in that regard. They should be able to recognize the problems in their organization for health and safety, and they should be able to present a solution to the management that for this problem, this should be the solution, where they need to make a policy, where they need to do the risk assessment, where they need to do the incident investigation, where they need to perform an audit, where they need to do an inspection. So they should be coming up with a solution how to resolve the problems in that regard. And then obviously the academic and career progress that is also needed for that one. I will go into the detail of these purpose. So when a student says, I have completed NEBOSH diploma, what is the difference? Like a person who have just an experience and a person who has experience plus NEBOSH diploma, what is the difference, right? And guys, this is one of the basic differentiators that I will talk about. Ideally, when I am speaking to a person who has completed the diploma qualification, and I start the discussion on any particular hazard, let's say I talk about fire or electricity, the person should be starting the conversation with the legal requirements, right? What does ILO say for fire safety? What does ILO say for electrical safety? ILO C120, that is a convention that is there for offices, for hygiene. C127 is there for manual handling. 170 is there for chemical. So they are not sharing their own point of view. They are not sharing their experience. They are talking in the language of the law. What does the law say? Because the law has been established by virtue of learning from the accident, by virtue of the best practices, by virtue of implementing the standards in a country in that regard. So that is one of the basic difference between a person who has completed IGC. So he will be talking about journal information about the hazards and the control measure. On the contrary, a person who says that I have completed the diploma, he will not be sharing his personal opinion or liking, disliking. He will be focused on the legal requirements that can be there from ILO, that can be there from WHO, maybe from HSC UK in that regard, OSHA, and other international bodies in that regard. And he should be able to guide the top management that if you are not able to fulfill the legal requirement, what are the consequences that we would be facing in that regard. And guys, this one point, this is basically the difference between success and failure in diploma, right? I have included it as a first point here because those students who give the examination and they don't succeed, one of the basic reason is that one that they don't identify the legal requirement for that particular hazard and they don't explain it the legal context of that. If you are giving generic answer, NEBOSH will never declare you pass in diploma in that regard. That is one of a basic thing. And that should change your thinking about hazard as well. You are now thinking from a legal perspective. You are thinking about a standard. You are thinking about a code of practice. You are thinking about a best practice. You are not talking about some article, some news, some personal experiences. That should be a game changer in your thinking in that regard. Secondly, within the organization, the health and safety information, how that information should be disseminated within different levels in that regard. So you have the top management, you have the middle management, and you have the workers. So you know which policy, which standard, which process to communicate at the appropriate level, how to convince them on the importance and the value of health and safety. I was doing a session on IDIP last Friday, and one of the students asked me that why we are studying it. I don't see any benefit in that one. And I was quite surprised that you have completed almost half of your diploma, and now you are asking this question that why is this thing needed? So, guys, one thing that I tell all health and safety professionals, first, believe in health and safety yourself. You are flag bearer for health and safety. You are the one who's going to convince the top management, like the CEO, the general manager. You are the one who's going to convince the manager, like HR manager, procurement manager, admin. You are the one who will be talking to the worker. Now, if you have doubts in your mind that I don't see any benefit in health and safety, then how you can convince others? You will never be able to convince anyone if you don't have a belief or faith in health and safety yourself. So first, build that thing, right? And that is how you can effectively communicate to others. If I don't value health and safety myself, how I would be able to convince others? I would never be convincingly, helping others in understanding the importance of that thing. The third thing is we would be focusing on the common workplace health and safety issues. I will go into the details of the topic that we will study in DI2 and DI3. So the common hazard within the organization, that can be noise, that can be radiation, that can be manual handling, that can be like lead, that can be asbestos. So all of these things we will try to understand. Now there is a catch in it, right? Same things, or most of the things we have studied in IGC. Why we are studying these things again in diploma? So guys, the basic thing, the difference is the depth of information, right? The information that you have at IGC, that is level 3. Now we are talking about level 6 information. So the approach, how you do the risk assessment for the hazard, how you can control it and how you can monitor it. The depth is like 10 times more as compared to the IGC. The IGC, you just have a basic information that, okay, noise is a hazard. We can control the noise at the source, in the pathway, or at the receiver end. But here the story is totally different. You are not just understanding the basic of controlling the hazard. You are getting more detailed information, and primarily these are linking back to point number 1, which is we would be studying the ILO standards, the codes of practice, HSE UK standard, to understand how to properly control these hazards in that regard. So that is why common workplace hazards are studied, but the level and the depth of information is very different in that regard, right? The fourth thing is the health and safety policy strategy, right? So the organization need to have a policy. They need to have a vision, what kind of a safety system we require in there, right? Now, if a health and safety professional, he does not have good amount of information, he does not have the necessary knowledge and the experience, he will create a system maybe that is just reactive. It might not have the preventive measures in that regard. A very simple example I will give you. When I talk to an IGC student and I say, what is the protective measure for fire and what is the preventive measure for fire in that regard? So they might not understand. They will say, okay, for fire, we can have a fire extinguisher, we can have a fire blanket, we can have a fire alarm, we can have other things. And I would tell them that all of these are protective measures. You're gonna use these measures when a fire has already occurred, right? They're not gonna prevent the fire from happening in your organization. So what is the preventive measure? The preventive measure belongs to the risk assessment, controlling the smoking, controlling the flammable material, controlling the use of electrical equipment in hazardous area, right? So the depth of information, the understanding of the things, that our health and safety system should be more focused on the preventive side rather than the protective side. That is the major difference between the level of information that we would be studying in diploma. That is why we say the policy strategy in there, because strategy is for the long term. The long-term success of an organization, it is based on how sound health and safety system you create, right? And when you are talking about a bigger company, like let's say you are working in a refinery, you are working in a chemical plant, you are working in a construction industry, in those industry where you are dealing with 1000 or more employees in that regard, you cannot have generic rules in there, you cannot have a generic system working in there, because that will never be successful. In that regard, you need to have the specific knowledge of that industry, of that particular hazard, and in-depth knowledge how to control it, because that is the basic purpose. A health and safety professional is there to create a system in which people's life, health, and safety is there in that regard, right? Now, moving on with these, I'll go to the next slide. So point number 5, risk management strategy. There are, different concept in IGC. We study it as hierarchy of control. Like there is elimination, there is substitution, engineering control, admin control, and last one is the personal protective equipment in that regard. But here, when you're going to study in diploma, we're going to study it in more detail. There might be risk transfer, there might be risk acceptance of that thing. So the professional is going to have an understanding how the risk of the organization need to be managed. What are the things we can manage on our own? What are the things we can transfer to other organization? Or what are the control measures we can adopt within our organization? And what are the things to be done in that regard? Point number 6, it's my all-time favorite. That is what I feel is the job of a health and safety professional. That is to create a positive health and safety culture, right? We have studied culture in IGC, but that is at a basic level. We understand what is a culture, the positive thing, the negative thing. But when you study diploma, there are different theories involved with health and safety culture. And most importantly, you will study what is a high reliability organization. There are organizations that are reactive. An accident happens, you make some control measures. But then there are those organizations who are reactive, who proactively see what are the hazards in their operation. They do the risk assessment, they do the inspection. They have a proactive safety culture where people are reporting near misses, so they prevent things from happening. That is what make them a high reliability organization. And there are 5 levels to that one. Once you have an opportunity to study it, you will understand the importance of that one. And guys, you can understand the importance of this topic with the fact that NEBOSH this year, they have selected this topic, high reliability organization, for their webinar as well. And the webinar was carried out, I think, 1 or 2 months ago. So there is, if you go to NEBOSH website and you can check the previous webinar, you would be able to see this topic, high reliability organization, that can help to create a safety culture within the organization in that regard. Then monitoring the system through audits, right? We're going to try to build competency for health and safety within the organization. And lastly, we would be managing the contractor and the supply chain to ensure compliance to the safety standard. So that means you are developing your vendors from health and safety point of view as well. Not only you are trying to ensure your own operation safety, but with all those organizations who are associated with you throughout in that regard, because when they are working on your organization, on your premises, or when they are working on your behalf at your customer premises, any accident, it can have all the moral, legal, and the financial aspects in that regard. So, guys, that is the overall crust. Now, I will be going into the accreditation part of that one, that what is the recognition level of this course in that regard. So just like I told you that now NEBOSH is accredited with Ofqual UK, and as a result of that one, IOSH now recognizes IDIP, and the person who completes it would be registered as a certified IOSH. Plus, obviously, you have to fulfill the registration requirement, which is the fees and the other stuff in that regard. Similarly, the Institute of Risk and Safety Management, you can have a full membership for that one. BCSP, that is also there. So you might be exempted from sitting the ASP examination if you fulfill all the other requirements in that regard. Similarly, Board of Canadian Registered Safety Professionals in that regard, you are also eligible to get the CRST, that is the safety technician level in that regard. And not only this one, NEBOSH also work with the other, accreditation bodies and regulators across the world. Just like South African Institute of Safety is there, IOSH and BSP, and then Construction Skill Certification Scheme. So this qualification, it is recognized by so many. It's not that it's only a UK, because many times people have a misconception that we have a qualification from NEBOSH UK, so that is only valid for UK or for GCC. That is not the case. The qualification is recognized at level 6 across the board in that regard. And if you see the equivalent qualification document, you would know that across level 6, how it ranks to the Wales, how it ranks to the Scottish qualification or any other qualification in them. So next thing is the sessions that we might be having for the diploma in that regard. So normally 2 types of program can run for diploma. That is the Friday sessions. So in that case, we will be having a 30 session, 30 Fridays in that regard, and the duration can be up to 6 months. Maybe there are 1 or 2 weeks plus or minus in that regard. Evening sessions, normally we would have 60 sessions, and the duration would be 3 months in that regard, right? Now, guys, one of the misconception or the challenge that students have is that they think that after studying this, they are competent enough to qualify for the examination, right? So my question is, do you think this is the actual duration of the course? And the answer is no, right? This is your study time in the class. This is not the complete course duration. right? So when you plan that, okay, I'm going to do this course, you should have a clarity that you are talking about at least a 2-year associate degree program. The classes might be 3 months, the classes might be 6 months. That does not mean within 3 months you're going to absorb all that information and you're going to develop all the understanding of that information, and then you can demonstrate it as well, right? When I did the diploma, it was a written exam, 2.5 hours, and all the books you need to memorize, and then you had to write the answer and you have to pass the examination in there. So I passed DI 1 and 3 in the first attempt. Then I did DI 2 separately in that regard. And then DI 4 report was separate. So there was 4 modules at that time. I'm talking about 2014, now like 10 years ago. But since the open book exam was introduced and then the course was changed according to the specification. So we need to understand that there is a sufficient amount of time for which we have to prepare ourselves for the open book exam, right? Open book exam means that you don't have to memorize. That means you have to understand a concept, you have to apply it to the scenario, and third time, you have to prove your knowledge that yes, you understand this hazard and you know what are the factors affecting it, you know what are the control measures for that one, and you know how to effectively manage the health and safety in that particular scenario-based organization. So through this webinar, I want to clarify everyone, please understand that there is a sufficient amount of study and research required to pass the course. Completing the classes does not mean that you have acquired all the knowledge and you have practiced it and you can demonstrate the knowledge level required by NEBOSH to pass the qualification. That is a totally different story. But that does not mean that you cannot. I will tell you how you should attempt it, right? Guys, as far as the NEBOSH recommendation, there are class taught hours in that regard. Okay. 71 for DI1, 60 for DI2, and 54 for DI3. Okay. Then say this is your self-study hours, 58, 45, and 41. Okay. Approximately, if you have studied for 185 hours, which is like 6 months, plus the similar amount of time, 5 to 6 months for that one as well. So what does that mean? Now you should understand that if I'm saying number one is your class time, right? Number two is your self-study time. And the third time, which I will talk about later, is your R&D. What is the R&D? This self-study is the study of the book. For additional resources, like you're gonna go to ILO website, you're gonna go to WHO, you're gonna go to HSE UK, OSHA standard, European Union standards in that regard. So you can multiply it with 3. The time that NEBOSH has mentioned here, 185, or it is, let's say, 6 months or 3 months, you can multiply it by 3 to understand that this is the minimal time I need to prepare myself for the examination. And I have guided students that please plan your exam. Don't just rush that I have completed the class, I'm going to do the exam. You will fail. I'm going to guarantee you, you will never be able to pass, because NEBOSH examiner, they expect a certain level of knowledge and experience. Without that, no matter how much you write, it will not be accepted because you are not able to demonstrate the depth of the information in the answers in that regard. Apart from this thing, the NEBOSH also guides on the paper 40, 20, and 20. Now, this is also a quite an interesting thing, which is a surprise to the student when they get the paper. They read, okay, this is very easy exam. I can do it. I know everything. But when you start writing the point, you write, okay, I'm not able to identify whole of the answer. I'll give you a very simple example. Recently, we had DI3 exam, okay, and there was 25-mark question on that one. On the storage, let's say, let me choose a simple one. There was a question on maintenance activity, right? And they said you have to write 25 points. Now, from the book, normally we can identify 10, 12, 15 points. 25 points. From where you're gonna get 25 points? So you're gonna do some R&D. You're gonna go to internet. There will be repeat information. What is in the book, there will be in the ILO standard, there will be in HSUK, maybe some points you are. So how you going to identify 25 points? The student gets stuck in there, right? And then they realize, no, this is not as easy as I thought it's going to be. Because DI3 is most easy. That is the physical hazard. We are talking about, let's say, fire, confined space, a power tool hazard, all these kind of things. And people say, I know each and everything, but when they start writing it, NEBOSH takes you to the limit. The limit is what is the maximum number of points or control measures that you can identify. And then the student gets stuck. And then they remember me that I told them to do the R&D and prepare for the examination in advance rather than. And for the last 3 years, I have been doing professional discussion with DSS. So from every student, I learned something in the professional discussion, and I will share my all of the learning with you. And I can guarantee you, if you follow that advice, passing the diploma will not never be a problem for you. Right. So, guys, apart from this thing, I would like to share with you an interesting thing that is Michael Adamson's NEBOSH Diploma Scholarship as well. So every year, 20 students are, given fully paid scholarship by NEBOSH. Six of them for the national diploma, that is from UK. So the opportunity you have is 14 slots for the international diploma students in that regard. And many of the DSS student I had recommended this year as well. Unfortunately, none of them were successful. But this is also an option that when you opt for NEBOSH diploma, you can apply for the scholarship in that regard. And normally, I think in the month of May or June, they start the process, and by July or end of July, they announce the 20 scholarships in that regard. And you will be happy to know that the scholarship they select, they are from all the countries. It's not that like they just select from one country. The 14 international students, there were students from India, from Pakistan, from I think Uganda, from different nationalities that were there. So that is, I think, a really good and maybe one of the motivating factors in that regard. This Michael Adamson, this scholarship, I would just give you a brief insight about this story that why they have named after this one. This Michael, he was a young person, an electrician working in an organization. Unfortunately, the organization was not following the health and safety rules in that regard. So he was supposed to work on a panel. In the panel, there was label saying that the power have been isolated. So he thought that the power is isolated. There should not be any live current in that one. But unfortunately, when he touched the cable, there was current and he died in that regard. And the family of this person, they had to fought a legal battle with the organization for 6 years. And after that, they admitted their wrongdoings in that regard. So that is why, this scholarship is there. And this was one incident which is very simple and avoidable by the employer. But unfortunately, it took the life of one person. That is why, in the memory of this gentleman, Michael Aronson, this scholarship has been there. Right. So, guys, what is next to diploma? The next to diploma is the learning journey does not end here with the diploma. You can have two options to study further. That can be a master's degree, that can be a master of research in that regard. And NEBOSH has a collaboration with University of Hull. You can do the distance learning program with them, and obviously they have on-site student program as well. But these three options are available. One is combined program for health and safety and environment. Two is program dedicated to health and safety, and third is only environment. Similarly, the Master of Research program has a similar to that one. Apart from this thing, there are other universities in UK that also recognize the NEBOSH IDIP qualification for higher studies. So I have given name of couple of these. They might have certain other requirements as well, but this qualification is also required as a prerequisite to the higher studies for the master program in these universities in UK. So I have just included the information from UK. There might be other universities in USA and Australia and New Zealand that might also require this qualification in there, right? So, guys, that was the course introduction. I hope you guys had a little bit of good insight about what is there. There is more interesting information to come in that regard. For the modules, that what kind of a topics we would be studying in there. So basically, we have three modules to deal with. We have unit one, that is the health and safety principles, the culture, the safety system of a company. What are the components in that one? Unit DI2 and DI3, they are controlling the workplace hazards. Two is about health hazard. Three is about safety hazards in that regard. So these are basically the technical hazard. Normally we study the hazard, its consequences, the factor affecting the risk assessment, and the control. These are the common topics that we study in all the hazards in that regard. If I go into a little bit of detail, because obviously, the time is limited, I cannot, talk about the topics in detail, then otherwise, we'll be starting a class for diploma in there. So just to give you a high level overview to understand that DI1 has 9 topics. Uh, Sorry, 8 topics in that regard. 9 starts with DI2 in that regard. So learning outcome number one, the thing that we learned in the IGC as well, the legal side, the financial side, and the moral side. We're going to try to understand the legal standard that are applicable from ILO for employer responsibility, worker responsibility, and other standards in that regard. Then we're going to try to understand the organizational structure, the top management, the middle, and the workers in that regard. What is the cultural, the behavioral change programs that are there, the human failures, and how to improve the human reliability within the organization. Learning outcome number three, that will be focused on competence, training, and high reliability organization. That was the topic I was referring to, that there are different levels of high reliability organization. One organization which is totally reactive, or they are ignoring health and safety. They are not bothered if there is a legal action, if there is an accident, if there is, God forbid, death of a person. And then there are those organizations which proactively manage each and everything to ensure that accidents do not happen and workers go home safely in that regard. Learning outcome number four, it's about hazard identification techniques in that regard. And there are a lot of theories that we will also study in learning outcome number five. In IGC, there is no information about root cause analysis. How are we going to do the root cause analysis? It is mentioned that we have to do it, but the methods are, you're going to study it in five. So all the quantitative and qualitative analysis, whether that is fishbone, that is histograms, that is event tree analysis, fault tree analysis. So all the root cause analysis, which a safety person should know, because he's going to do the root cause analysis for the incident, for the non-compliances, for the potential gaps that are reported. So this module 5 is quite critical in there. 6, for the professional skills, the person should be having. 7, the societal factors, just like, economy and your earning and so many other things are there, which can have a impact. Additionally, organizational changes as well. And lastly, 8, there are different contractor evaluation schemes in that regard, through which we evaluate that the contractor is competent and should we award the job to the contractor. Obviously, from health and safety point of view, this is not talking about the commercial and the financial side. This is obviously from the health and safety point of view. If I go into DI2, we are dealing with the health hazard in that regard. So just like 9.2, it is about mental ill health. Before this webinar, I was teaching the same to my Friday class in that regard. We were talking about anxiety, depression, mental health, lone working in that regard. We talked about violence and so many other things in there. 9.3, the health surveillance, which is required for so many hazards, like for dust, for noise, for vibration, for radiation, we can do that. Similarly, we will be talking about specific hazard, like in 9.7, we'll talk about asbestos and lead, its control measure, the legal requirement for asbestos will also be discussed in there. 9.8, the local exhaust ventilation LEV system, the different type of PPs that are there. 9.10 focuses on biological agents that are there, and then noise, vibration, radiation. 14 about manual handling and welfare thing in 9.15. So in DI2, we have 15 topics that we need to cover in there. When we go to DI3, obviously all the physical hazards we are talking about. So we are talking about the working environment, how that should remain safe in that regard, confined space, then fire and explosion, the dangerous substances that are there. like we might be having LPG and other substances stored at the site. Work equipment and machinery is there. Then 10.9 mobile work equipment and lifting equipment, electricity is there. Construction associated hazards are there. And then last one, the workplace transport. So 12 topics are there. Now I'm going to go back to that table that I told you. So if you can understand that we have 8 topics to cover in 71 hours, then we have 15 topics here and we have 12 topics here. So approximately, you can understand that approximately 3 to 4 hours per topic on the average is there. And that is the concept. What we do in these classes is we give the concept to the student. Like, do you understand what is a culture? Right? Then the student have to go back and he has to study the book to get more information on that one. If there is an HSC UK standard, he should study it, he should download it, and he should review that information before the examination. So if there is a question in the exam, you are prepared for that one, right? Even today, there was one standard, I think INGG 69, that was there. And I told the student to download the standard, highlight the information, and save it at their end, right? Because next time when you get a paper and the question is asking this thing for violence, it was related to the violence at the workplace. So you can open the standard and you can use that information to quickly write your answer. Otherwise, if you don't do that, what's going to happen? In the exam time, you are just doing R&D. And when you are doing R&D, you are lost because when you Google something, what's going to happen? You're going to get 1,000 pages, right? So how are you going to know which one to follow and from where I should extract my answer? That working needs to be done before the examination. So guys, the third topic that I will focus on is the examination itself. All right, just okay. The examination itself. So the exam for diploma, it's open book exam. We call it OBE as per NEBOSH in that regard. So there is no invigilation. You can do the examination anywhere in the world, whether you are in which country, it does not matter. You only need to have internet. So you can download the question paper and the answer sheet, and then you're gonna upload back your answer sheet. That is it for the examination. As far as the resources are concerned, open book means that you can use your book, you can use your course notes, you can use videos, you can use YouTube, internet, anything. Any resource except for a person. You cannot use a person in that regard. That will be considered malpractice. So you can use all your resources throughout the class and everything that is there. As far as the papers are concerned, DI1, it has 2 papers, right? Paper one, it is scenario based, okay? And this scenario based question is same for DI2 and 3 as well, right? So this is an expanded version of the IGC exam. IGC exam will be a short scenario and the questions would be limited. But this paper, it will be a very detailed scenario, maybe 3, 4 pages. They might give you some additional documents as well to study, like supporting documents would be there, especially for DI2, there will always be there supporting document, 5, 6 documents are there. And then the question they are asking you approximately 175 marks each for DI2 and 3. DI1 is 100 marks, while DI1 paper 2, that is the most difficult, challenging thing which a student need to attempt because this is a reflection of your own organization. So they will be asking you question from your own organization. So you can select a company and you might have to answer certain questions that are there. So they might ask you, let's say your company has an internal audit program. What are the 2 main problems it is facing, and what are the 2 main solutions that you can provide for that one? They will ask you, what are the, let's say, main 4 or 5 hazards that are facing your organization? So you have to apply the knowledge that this is the nature of my company and these are the hazards that are there. Then you have to quantify them, like what is their financial impact and other thing in that regard. I will not go into the details of that one. When you do the revision class, I explain each and everything in there. But what we need to understand is that there are 3 papers. Paper 1, DI1, this is the most complicated one, right? Very difficult to pass in that regard. So if somebody asked my advice, just like yesterday, I was talking to a student in UAE, and he said that I want to give DI2 exam in November. And I said, please don't do that, because that will never be a good idea. Always start with DI3, because the practical hazard, that is the most common knowledge and everybody has a good idea about. So if you want to start, my advice is give DI3 first, then DI2, and then DI1. If you try to attempt DI1 first, and the chances of failure, if you are not prepared, are very high, that will be a very negative factor on your mind for the future exams in that regard. But if you do DI3 first and you pass it, that will be a positive factor motivating you to work hard for the next DI2 and DI1 exam as well, right? So it might seem that, okay, NEBOSH is giving you very good amount of time for the paper, but is it the time is sufficient? I don't think so. That is true in that regard, right? So, all right. So, the exam time, they are saying for DI1, you have 20 working days, which mean the time you have in that regard is basically 4 weeks, right? Within 4 weeks, you can do the examination. Now, for one person, it might say, oh, 4 weeks is a very long time. It's like almost 1 month, right? But what is happening every day? Let's say you have to work for 8 hours, right? Your commute to the work, let's say it is 1 to 2 hours. You have to sleep for 8 hours, or let's say, let me reduce to 7 hours, right? So that is 16 hours. And within the remaining time, let's say if you work on exam for 4 hours daily, so that means you have all other activities like going to the washroom, eating your meals, or doing some personal stuff, giving time to the family. That is just 4 hours in that regard, right? And that becomes quite challenging. Last year, when there was DI1 exam, it was Ramzan time. And on the, I think, third day of the Eid, they had to submit the paper. And for some of the students, obviously, who are Muslim and who are fasting, Eid is a time of festival. They are having all the families and everything, and they are stuck. Okay, I don't have time to do this. They need to do that. So we need to understand the reality of the thing. So the reality is 20 days does not mean you have 4 weeks. It means you have maximum 80 hours, right? So 80 hours means you have 10 days to work on the exam in that regard. So my advice to the student who are giving the exam, they know the first thing I say on day one of my class is plan leaves during your exam. You have to sacrifice your annual leaves 4 or 5 days for each exam. Do that, because your success is more important than your annual leave. If 1 year you have to sacrifice your annual leave, it does not matter. When you will be successful, you can have as many leaves as you want in that regard. But if you are not ready to sacrifice your family time and other thing for the study, passing the exam will become a challenge. I have included a schedule here for you, okay? uh, so that you can try to think about it. Like, if today is 16th of August and one student say, okay, I want to do diploma. Okay. So they need to plan when to start studying and when to give the examination. So for example, if somebody starts today, I will recommend them to take, if they want to do DI1 exam, they should opt for March in that regard. Or first, if they can complete DI3 first, they can first take the January examination. You have to give yourself sufficient amount of time to study, absorb the information, practice on that one, and then able to demonstrate NEBOSH that yes, you have gained the sufficient amount of knowledge for that thing. So just like what I say, it's like a 2 year program in that regard. So at least 1 year would be needed for your preparation and studies and everything in there. Never think that you can quickly do it in 3 months and then you're gonna give the exam and you will pass. No, a lot of student, when they give the first exam and if they are a refer, they have a shock of their life because they think they have learned everything and they know everything and they would be successful. But that is not the case. When they see the student who are successful, then they realize, okay, no, I need to work hard. I need to study more. This is not enough in that regard. So that is what I'm teaching you right now, that this is a reality and we should understand it. There is a natural learning process. The concepts are detailed, the laws are detailed, and we need to work hard. Working hard on this one is required. So NEBOSH says that for DI1, uh, 40 hours are required. What does that mean? NEBOSH thinks that you're gonna work 2 hours every day because you have 20 days for DI1 exam. But I'm recommending you that you have to work at least 4 to 5 hours every day. That is reality. Without that, passing the exam will be a very big challenge. If you get a leave, like 3, 4 days leave, then these hours can be reduced. Maybe you have to work 2 to 3 hours a day if you have 4 or 5 leaves within those 20 days. And same is the case with DI2. They think 2 hours every day, but that is not right. You have to make an effort. Just like I told you, there are questions which test your limits, your thinking limits. What is the maximum amount of control measures are, how you're going to control the hazard you can think of. They're going to ask you 18 mark question, 21 mark, 22 mark, 25 mark questions are there. So how you going to identify 25 different points? You need to have a sufficient amount of knowledge with you. Without that knowledge, you cannot write 25 points in there, right? And lastly, the passing marks are 50. So every examination, you need to score 50. And let me go back to the previous slide. So 100 marks for part one, paper one, you need to get 50 out of 100. 200 marks, you need to get 100 out of 200. And in order to pass DI1, you have to pass both the papers. It cannot be the case like out of 300, you passed in paper one, but you did not pass paper two, right? That you will have to redo both of them again. So that is the challenging part in that one, that we have to pass both scenario based and your workplace reflection exam as well. DI2 175, 50% of that one, approximately 87 something. And DI3 again 50% of 107. They're gonna give you the result on percentage out of 100. They are not gonna consider 175. That will be based on the percentage, like how many marks you have got. Like if I have got 100 and 125, that will be percentage of 170. So I might get maybe 80 marks or 75 marks in there. That will be there. Now, guys, the rating criteria based on the marks, like if you have distinction, that means you should be able to score 226 mark in the three papers. 196 to 225, that is credit. 150 to 95, that is pass. And below that, that is a refer here. I have included a picture of one of my students from the Friday batch, Kenneth. He was a very good student from my July last year batch in that regard. And he had scored, for me, that is my personal best student, 82% marks in the diploma in that regard. So I'm a great admirer of him. And, honestly, there was a time, I'll tell you one thing. Obviously, it was between me and him, but let me share with you because I learned from it and he learned from that one. When he got DI1 paper, after doing paper one, he got disheartened. And he said, I'm not gonna do DI, second paper of DI1. I don't have time. This is very difficult. I don't know. He's working in marine industry in that regard. But still have his chat with me. I told him, no, you have to do it. You have the knowledge. Just be patient. Patience in examination is required. The exam is not finishing in one day like IGC. It is just one day. You work hard one day and then you can relax. This is like a 20 days, 4 weeks. So that means it is a continuous effort required on daily basis to sit for that thing. And he got the marks in that one, the highest marks in DI1 paper, 82. That is the highest ever for my student and even for DSS. He is one of the student who got distinction in there, crossing 75 marks. So guys, patience is very necessary. This exam, they are saying it's for 4 weeks and 2 weeks each. So in those 2 weeks, you have to sit daily, consistently. Your commitment is necessary. If you got disheartened and if you say, I'm tired, I have my family issue, I have this challenge, my project is starting, this is happening, then you cannot do the examination. And I will tell you the reason for that as well. So guys, with all the information that I have shared with you, my learning and everything, what is the recipe for success? If I want to do this course, how I can make it a successful for me? Because obviously, there is a cost involved in the course. This is not a very, I can say, a cheap course in that. There is a sufficient amount of money that you are investing on yourself. So the first thing every student should think in mind is how I gonna be successful, right? What are the things I should be doing to reach my goal that is going to help me, reach my destiny in that regard? So, guys, again, just like I told you, all the things I learned from each and every student. Being a teacher does not mean that my learning has stopped. I learned from each and everyone how they have succeeded, how they have failed. What is the thing they have focused on? What are the things they have ignored in that regard? And I believe that is one of the ways I try to help everyone to succeed because I don't want them making the same mistakes again, right? So, guys, this slide is the most important slide. If you understand it, not even this, but all the exams, you should be able to succeed in that regard. So, guys, what is the first line, right? I'm experienced, I know everything, and I have already done it, right? In the NEBOSH diploma class, there are like safety managers, project managers, senior people in a company. And they say, I have been working for 20 years. I know everything. I'm just doing a diploma because I need a qualification. That is one of the biggest mistake anyone can make to themselves, thinking that I know everything. When you are registered as a student, what you should do? Your mind should think you are a student. That means you are sitting in a class to learn. If you are sitting in my class or any teacher's class thinking that I already know everything, then what you gonna learn? You will learn nothing, right? The session will be waste of time because your mind is closed. It is not accepting outside information. It is saying that in your company you are already doing it. The recent exam for DI3, there was question on confined space where chlorine was there. There was a question on working at height. There was a question on fire in the building. And many people were saying, okay, I know fire, but I don't know chlorine. I know confined space, but I don't work with the power tools. I know power tools, but I don't work with this thing. And these were the students' answer in the professional discussion in that regard. So when I'm registered as a student, I should consider myself as if you are a student. That means I am joining a class to learn. That should be my first priority. If I have a mindset that I know everything, believe me, you're gonna fail. When I gave DI2 exam at 2014, there were doctors with me and they failed in that one because the attitude was this one that I know everything. I'm a doctor. Why I should fail in the health related hazards in that regard? It's not your knowledge. It's the way NEBOSH wants you to write the answer. NEBOSH does not care about what you know. They care about what they know and what you can identify from that knowledge. That is the whole thing. You need to understand the NEBOSH pattern. You need to understand the NEBOSH requirement. They don't care if you are an engineer, if you have 20 years of experience. They are not judging your qualification. They are judging your ability to use that knowledge to control a hazard. If you can demonstrate, good, you will pass, right? So, guys, this is the first thing. And I can quote names. There are students who are working in bin construction companies as a HSC manager, failed three times because they are not listening. Even when I did the revision class, the students are stubborn and they believe, no, I know everything. I have done it. If you have this attitude, success is very difficult. Second thing is people think that they will just study the book because it covers everything. The answer to that thing is no. The book does not cover everything. No. It just gives you, it enlightens you. It gives you a basic information to understand the hazard. You still need to review additional resources. ILO, HSE UK, OSHA, articles, guidelines, codes of practice. You still need to do that, right? And people think that, we don't need to study in detail or use external resources. You have to use external resources because they're going to ask you that there is a guideline L108. From that guideline, identify 20 control measures. Go to this HSE UK. This is a standard for vibration. From that standard, identify this information. So if you have not read it before, you will be stuck in the examination, right? And one thing is more, that is practice is the key to success. Without practice, whether it is IGC, FSC, EMC, diploma, or any NEBOSH exam, any open book exam, that requires practice, practice, and practice. You need to practice on the previous papers. Even before you start studying the course, if you can get previous paper, get them, start studying the paper, try to understand the scenarios, how they picture a company. This time scenario that they have given for the DI3 exam, that is an excellent scenario. It was a golf club scenario. In that scenario, they have explained all the areas from car parking, material storage, then the grounds, the workshop, the maintenance, the working at height, confined space, swimming pool. So within 4 or 5 pages, they showed the complete picture of a golf course. And you had to identify all the problems in there, right? So this thing is necessary. We need to practice so that we understand how the company is presented by NEBOSH, how they give some information, how they hide some information, how you have to imply that, okay, they did not mention about health and safety policy. That means it is not there. If they mention risk assessment, they mention it was made in 2021. That means for the last 3 years, it's not reviewed. So these are the things that you learn from practice, and that is how you get good marks in there, right? Then we have to understand the marking scheme, right? I told you it's not about what you know. It's about how NEBOSH wants you to present the information to them in the answer sheet. So I might have a very good knowledge. If I don't understand how NEBOSH gives marks in that regard and how I can get 25 out of 25, that is necessary. Just like I tell you, when I started doing revision classes here with DSS in that regard, I told the student to write extra point in the answer. Before that, nobody was writing extra point. And I told them there is no negative marking. Who told you that you cannot write extra? If there is a 10-mark question, I will advise you to write 13 points because that will increase your chances of getting 10 out of 10. If you have written 10 and 3 of them are incorrect, you will get 7. But if there are 13, the chances are you will get still 10 out of 10 from that thing. So we need to understand the whole examination paper, its questions, what are the requirements, how we should be writing the answer. Getting the knowledge is the first thing. Using that knowledge to write the answer is another thing in that regard, right? I'll just stop here and I would like to share with you one thing. Uh, that was the previous DI3 exam that I was referring to. So let me just give you a quick insight of that one of this July exam. Okay. So this is the paper that I got. I always receive a paper as a student. The first thing, whether I get IGC paper, I study it and I highlight each and every information. So you see, this is how a student should be working on an exam. They should understand, okay, this is a golf resort. It's in a rural area. They have a parking with 200 vehicles. They have visitor driving in all directions. So it is red because it is negative for safety. There is no control over the vehicle movement in that regard. People leave the equipment in the car parking area. So that can cause a collision. That can cause the grid bins are not refilled. So when you study and you practice, you highlight each and every information. So in your mind, a picture is created of a company that this is a company having these issues. So you can see green and red and blue. So blue is general information, green is positive information, red is negative. So I studied each and every word, each and every line, and I understood what this whole scenario is telling me. And when I come to the answer, then I know, okay, transport question, what are the improvements needed? 18 marks question. So I will go to the top where the car parking was mentioned. And I will say, okay, it is a large gravel car park. Now, guys, I tell you a very interesting thing. I did interview for almost like 50 students this time. Okay. There were like 2 students who identified this point that there was a gravel car park. Everybody else ignored it. Now, if you have a 200 vehicle gravel car park, that is not a good thing. You should have a carpeted road because you need to have road marking, you need to have mirrors and other things. So on gravel, we cannot do that. So only two students, the rest of everyone, they ignored because they did not highlight at that point. So that is what I'm trying to tell you, that we need to understand the question paper, and that comes with a practice. The more you read in, the more you absorb the information, your mind is tuned to identify, okay, this is an important point for me. So in order to write the answer, this first paragraph, I can write 10 points very easily from them. The rest of 10 points I can identify from any standard. That is how I will be writing 18 points in there. And that is one of the challenge that the student has. How to write these many points in there when they are asking 18 points, 25 points in there. Only the student with the in-depth knowledge they can have it. Otherwise, it's very difficult in that regard. People think R&D is not required. That is not the case. R&D is required. So I'll just give you an information in that one. Mm, let's say this is a HSE UK standard from NICE, okay? So the standard I need to download, and when I need to download, I will try to understand, what are the adjustments, okay? I might try to highlight the information. Okay, record is to be maintained for the workplace adjustment. We need to monitor the adjustment in that regard. So the standard is there. I downloaded it, I highlighted the information, and when there is a question in the exam, I can quickly pick up this standard, that is NG 146 standard, right? And that is going to help me write my answer quickly, because in the exam, I will not have enough time to download it, to study it, and to identify what is my answer is going to be. So that is an important thing. R&D need to be done before the examination. And you have topics with you. I told you what are the topics. Like if I go here in DI3, I know these are the topics. I can do R&D on noise. What is the HSE UK standard for noise? What is the ILO for noise in that regard? Uh, ILO has the same convention for noise and vibration. So I can just download. Similarly for radiation, I think that is, I don't know, 168 or something. 167 for the construction, 170 for the chemical. So for each, these are the topic. I will just download HSE UK standard, ILO standard. I will highlight the information. My R&D is complete. When they're going to ask a question on vibration, I'm going to pick up that thing and I'm going to try my best to write all the possible answers from there in that regard. Right. Now, guys, the last and the most important thing, right? There are so many lesson learned. I have seen the students. Okay. Now, exam versus job versus family. You have three balls to juggle during the examination. 4 weeks or 2 weeks for DI3, 2 or 1 in that regard. And sometimes, just like I told you this year, sorry, in February, March, when the exam was there for DI1, there were Ramzan, and there were Eidul Fitr holidays. So the student who were Muslim, obviously they were strangled. They were fasting. Then they had other, religious obligation to fulfill. And then there were Eid when all the family is gathered and they are having, all the fun and everything. And they had to manage the exam because the third day they had to submit. So planning. When you gonna do the exam? Do you check your calendar? Do you check in? So I'm gonna just tell you a simple thing. If you see my planning for every year, for NEBOSH and everything, I do plan in that regard. And you see here, I have tried to map Eid ul Fitr, what are the religious and other holidays that are there. So I know that when that exam or thing, I need to plan my work accordingly, right? And that I do January at the start of the year, even end of December in that year. So when you have to plan your study, plan your exam. I see students saying, my daughter was born, so I was in the hospital. I did not get time. I was going on to the annual leaves. I was traveling. I did not had time. I had this thing, a wedding to attend. I had this. You need to understand that this thing is priority. You have spent money on it. You have spent time on it. Exam is the time when you're going to realize that dream into reality, that your work is the reality to achieve the goal. And if you are compromising, then that means all your money and effort is going to be wasted, and that is what I don't want, right? As a teacher, I never want my student to fail. I would be happy seeing you succeed, but for that, follow the advice. You know what I'm telling you. So guys, what are the things that we should do? So the problems I told you, Believe you are a learner and understand its level in that regard, right? Believe that you're gonna learn the diploma and learn the level. Level 6 mean in-depth information. Let's say I'm a safety officer right now and I'm doing diploma. When I'm writing the exam, when I'm studying, I will not say Azhar is a safety officer. Here, I'm going to believe Azhar is a safety manager. In your mind, you should have faith. I'm a safety manager. As a safety manager, what are the control I should adopt? What are the things I should do to improve the situation in that regard? If I'm a safety manager and I say, okay, let us do the training, that is an administrative control. It will not add much value. It will add value, but I should think of how to eliminate the thing. My thinking should be above. It is not that I'm going to give a simple suggestion, okay, do this thing, do. No, I should think beyond that thing, right? Yesterday, I was having a discussion with one of the students, and he said that, we do the cleaning of the washroom. He was from a facility management company. And he said, I don't have any solution for the chemicals that we are using. And I said, who told you the solution is not there? Just Google it and try to search it. In United States, there are automatic robots doing the washroom cleaning without any chemicals. And they do it with pressure wash in that regard. They have disinfectant and they use pressure wash. So not a single person has to go into the washroom and they are not exposed to the chemicals, right? So understand the level. There is a solution to everything. You just need to search it. You just need to seek it. When you seek knowledge, knowledge will give you passage to find its way. Second thing, plan everything. Your course, your classes, your assessment, even, your family time and everything. If you have a wife, if you have an expectant wife, if you have small kids, if you have to pick them from school, all of these things plan when you give the exam. If you don't plan, you will be stuck and you will compromise the exam in that regard. If your wife is not happy, send her packing home on holidays, for 10 days. Just leave me alone. I want to succeed in the exam. I don't want to fail. I don't want to study it again. Imagine a person have worked, let's say, 3 years for an exam, and after that he fails. So what he's going to feel? He has to pay money and he has to study everything again. Why we want to study everything again? Why we not pass it in the first attempt? Make it happen in the first attempt in that regard, right? Third thing, we got to study extensive study and research in that regard. One of my students, not one, 2 or 3 students from my last year diploma, they gave the exam this year after 1 year. So for whole 1 year, they were after the classes, they were studying the material and preparing themselves well, so that when they give the exam, they are successful. Everybody's learning curve is different. Some people are intelligent, they just study it once and they don't need to recall it. But some people, just like me, I have to work hard to memorize my concepts in there. So I might have to study the book 2 times, 3 times in that regard. So understand that every person need a different amount of time for the preparation. So recognize yourself that do you require 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month, and then register accordingly. Don't just rush to get registered. What's the point if you cannot be successful? There is no race that you just have to give the exam. What's the point of that? Objective is to be successful, right? Practicing on past papers, that is there. We need to understand the NEBOSH requirement. We always help our student for the last 2 years now. I am doing the revision classes for DI 1, 2, and 3 exam. So we try our best to help students understand what NEBOSH wants from you, so that when you are writing every word, you are writing as per standard or expectation of the examiner, so that you can gain maximum marks in that regard. Lastly, guys, choosing the learning partner and the tutor wisely in that regard. The basic concept is there that how a learning is successful, how we can say the learning is successful. Number one factor is the tutor. Number two is the learner. Number three is the material. And number four is the work environment where the session is being held, whether it is online or within a class in that regard. So for me, the most important factor is the tutor. If your tutor, it's not the criteria how much experience he is, like he might be 30 years experience. Who is a successful tutor? The successful tutor is the one who can transfer the concept from here to your mind. That is a tutor who can create a concept in your mind. Like if I'm having a session or any tutor is having a session, they cannot give you just knowledge and just general information. They have to build a concept. I might have to show you a picture. I might show you a video. I might tell you a story about an accident. Just like for the Michael Adamson, I told you the story behind it. It's not that I just told you that there is a scholarship. I told you the reason behind it, why they have that scholarship, right? So try to pick the learning partner who values learning. Try to pick the tutor, who you are comfortable with and you can learn from them in that regard. Because if you don't learn, then passing the exam is a very big challenge in that regard. We have so many students coming in from outside registering with us, which is, I think, we should be thankful for our hard work and obviously by the grace of God, effort of everyone here at the DSS team in that regard. So we try to help people guide in the right direction. Even all day long, most of my time is spent guiding the students in that regard. So please understand that your learning partner plus your tutor and the learner, which is the second factor. So when you are attending the classes, your concentration, your focus, you are doing the exercises, you are giving due time to the self-study. I told you that if 184 hours for the classes, 144 for the self-study. If you don't do self-study, forget it that from the classes you're gonna just succeed. No, that is one third of that one, your classes, self-study, and R&D. That means it is three times that thing. That is the three things you got to do to succeed in there. Okay. Lastly, guys, I'm done. So I will be happy if you might be having any questions or comments. We would be appreciating if anyone would be having in that regard.
All right, guys, if you have any questions, but I think there's one question here, Mr. Azar, which country that NEBOSH has restrictions?
Yeah, basically, whatever all the countries against which UK have sanctions, just like Russia is one of them in that regard. So any student from there, they might not be able to give the examination. While if they are in any other country, then there might not be any issue because the exam is issued over the internet. So if you have a restriction, then you will not be able to access the exam and everything. So obviously, students have to declare which country they are in order to get registered with that thing.
All
Then I
right.
think Imran,
Mhm.
yeah, Imran have also asked like what is the validity of the course once registered in that regard. So Imran, there is no time limitation. Like you can give the examination within 1 year or 2 year or within 6 months. And once you complete the qualification, there is no expiry to that one as well. Like once you have the qualification, it will remain with you in that regard.
Okay, I think Albert Abajo is raising his hand. He has a question to ask.
Yes, Albert, please go ahead.
First and foremost, I want to thank you for your deep analysis that you took us through. My question would be, you said like maybe if you have been in the safety field, like you shouldn't take your experience as one of the ways of passing. So that takes me back to the question where you find somebody has completed IG, both IG, but he has no job, he has no experience at the same time, but maybe he feels like I should add a diploma,
Right.
of which at the same time you feel like you're scared. Will I manage a diploma? I hear like it needs someone to be having experience. So can you highlight us about that area?
Right. So, Albert, I remember we have discussed it in the class as well. So let me explain again. So, dear, after doing IGC, I always recommend people to do some job which can give them some insight or practical experience. Like you have learned about permit to work. So, if in a company you experience how the permit to work system runs, then you will have a good understanding of that one. Unfortunately, if a person does not have a job experience for health and safety and they are working in some other field, they can still do the diploma, but their learning curve will be slower as compared to a normal student in that regard. They will have to study more and they will have to make more effort to pass the examination. So again, I will say I will ask them to study the class, but don't rush for the exam. They should, after the class, at least study for 3 to 6 months and prepare themselves well for doing the diploma. Recently, there was one of my student, Jack Patterson. Maybe you guys might know him. He did not had any job experience after IGC, and he did the diploma. Now he has given the third exam as well in that regard, and he passed the first DI1. I think DI2 result is not yet out. So people can still do it, but they will have to make a serious effort to that one. It will not be easy. If you are ready to work hard, then you can still do it. It will be challenging though. Yes, Albert, you have a follow-up comment or a question? Please go ahead.
Uh, this one, I think it will go to the sales department in case we have anyone here. Like, some of us are having, we want to go back to our countries, but we would wish to register from here, then we go back to our countries. So now
Right,
the question is, if we leave and we do the exam and we do everything,
right,
how shall we receive our documents in case we pass? And then another thing, sometimes we have people from our countries who would wish to join the same institute that we have joined.
right,
So how can they help such people in case you have someone to connect? Like also like you could get market for the institute because having learned from you,
right,
we've seen your capacity, we've seen what you can provide. And that helps us because by the time I came back from my country, I had like two people who had consulted me, but I had no enough knowledge to guide them, although I consulted and I gave them the little I knew. But I
right.
think it would be better if I have more so that because I think by around October I'll be going back. So if I get some, then I can also be able to connect them to you as an institute.
I think Miss May, I think you can please answer for the sales side.
Yeah, so if you're interested in enrolling for this course, you can always contact us and we will connect you to our sales advisor who will give you all the details that you need for this. So you can just email me or send me a WhatsApp message on the number flash on the screen, and we will be able to assist you in regards to your query or your application or registration. Okay,
All
so
right, yeah,
do you
please go
still
ahead.
have time to answer one more question?
No, I think we should answer all the questions. There are a
Mhm.
couple of comments I would
All
like
right,
to
go
respond.
ahead.
William is asking, please, sir, what of we with no job experience for this course? So again, Albert have asked the same question. After IGC, if you don't have a safety job experience, you can still study, but just like I explained, the learning curve will be slow. So you will have to make more effort because you have not seen the practical side of that thing. Because a culture in IGC is very easy, but when you talk about culture in diploma, that is going to be discussed in like 5 6 sessions. So there is a very detailed amount of information, so you need to have, it is better if you get some practical experience. If not, you can still study, but again I would say don't rush for the exam. Give yourself some time to understand and absorb all the information in that regard. And then what are the qualification to enroll into NEBOSH level 6? Frank is asking. So their IGC is the basic thing. If you have that, then obviously you can go ahead with the registration for that. When individuals, Banbas have asked the same question. Their IGC is the basic thing. Saidul, I think, what is the total duration from the registration until the final paper? Can I have a fee structure? So there for the fee structure, obviously you can contact the sales like CT and other people are there in that. That duration, what I have explained to you for the classes, it is like if you are taking Friday, that is 6 months. If you are taking evening, that is 3 months in that regard. And for the registration, that is your choice. Like you study DI2 now, and let's say you say, I'm going to register after 3 months or 6 months or 4 months. That is your choice. Exams are held twice a year. So it is your choice, like which date you're going to pick for the examination. And I gave you the example, like sometimes students select a date after 1 year, after 6 months. That is perfectly fine. There is no restriction for you to have any limited duration that within that you have to give. No, there is no restriction. So you can plan your exam. That is what I said. that you can please plan your studies, you can plan your exam in that regard. Okay, so there are Yusuf is asking, is IDIP recognized as a bachelor degree in Qatar? So, dear, that is like an associate degree. It's not, bachelor degree is considered a 4 years. So it is not equivalent to that one because that is at level 6. But I think it is recognized by Ashkal because, they have it as a requirement for a safety manager on a project. Like any safety manager on a project, they need to have diploma. Without that, they don't allow this thing to be there. And can the course be studied in different language like French and Arabic? No, dear Wilfred. Currently, we are only offering it in English because, for having a different language, we need to have not only the tutor, but obviously other arrangement with NEBOSH need to be there because the study material and everything that need to be arranged in there for that thing. So for now, this plan is not there, but maybe in future that might be there. All right, thank you. Anybody else?
I think
Yes,
Enyola is still
Yes,
raising his
yes.
hand.
Yes, please go ahead with your question.
Enyola, you're on mute. All right. Okay, Enyola.
All right,
All right. All right. So I just wanted to add regarding the fee structure. So if you're interested actually in enrolling for this course or any of the units that we're offering now, you can always just send us an email or WhatsApp me on the number that was flashed earlier. Okay, or you can always visit our academy. You can also send us a message in our social media, and we will connect you to one of our sales advisor who will discuss this to you. All right.
Miss May, I just have one more comment I want to share with the student. Dear, now, we are, conducting diploma courses in module form. Just like I told you, like we started DI2, then we will do DI3. So, when a course is going, you don't have to wait till the end of the course. Okay, next course is going to start, let's say from November or October. The ongoing course, we are enrolling the student even in the ongoing course. Like if I am starting DI3 module, let's say 31st August, that is the date DI3 module is going to be start. So if there is a new student, we will enroll them in the existing class so that first they can study DI3 and then DI1 and DI2. In that way, they have a flexibility in completing the classes and they have a flexibility in choosing the exam dates as well because there is no restriction from NEBOSH. So we are also flexible in that regard. So that is a new thing that we have recently decided that we will not wait for the course completion and then enroll new student. We can also enroll student in the existing batch, but that will not be within the classes. Like when a module is going to be starting, we will enroll new student in that one. Okay, so that is just to update everyone about it.
I think there's one more question. You want to go for it? If I have IEMA, ISO 45000, NEBOSH IJC, and also I had can help in my career.
So basically, just like I explained that diploma is now a basic requirement to become a safety manager or HSC manager in that regard. So diploma, without the diploma level qualification, nobody would be given the designation, even for like Ashkal projects or something. If the person is to be declared as a safety manager without the diploma qualification, he will not be there. And even down below to the HSC engineer level, many companies are now giving it in the job advertisement that NEBOSH IDIP is required as a basic criteria. So yes, that is the need of the hour. And those people who have done IGC a long time ago, like maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, they should definitely think about it because without that, the future growth will not be possible within the same role.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Russell. Any more questions, guys?
My
Yes.
last question would be about in case you want to study diploma, is it possible for someone to focus maybe like on environmental management only?
Right. That is a separate diploma, dear. Those people who have done EMC, Environment Management Certification, just like IGC is there, EMC course is separate for the environment. And after that, you can do the diploma in that regard, because that is totally different field, environment from the health and safety. Yes,
Yeah,
Anderson,
good.
please go.
Yeah, good day.
My question is, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Zar.
Yes.
My question is, what if someone has NEBOSH IGC plus
Right.
13 years experience in the HSC field? Can this one be declared safety manager or senior officer?
So, dear, just like based on my knowledge and experience for the local market here, without diploma, I think getting the job of a safety manager is a big challenge now. There are a lot of people who are already safety manager, and their company has given a timeline that within this time you need to complete the diploma in order to remain the safety manager within the company. So this is required, and it is getting the requirement is getting acknowledged by different employers day by day. So we would be seeing, even there might be a time in couple of years where even a safety officer would be required to have this qualification, and the safety manager, they might be required to have a master's degree qualification in future as well. That is obviously necessary now.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, dear, please go ahead.
good afternoon.
Yeah,
Or
good
good
afternoon.
evening, dear. Yeah, firstly, I would like to thank DISS to give kudos to them for maintaining the standard and giving the support to their candidate, because I know DISS as number one training provider in Qatar since 2011, that have been patronized them when I did my IGC. Till
Right.
now, I can say that you are still maintaining the standard. Kudos to you.
Right. Thank you very much for that.
Although one or two questions that I want to ask, you already said that. And thank God myself, I'm a NEBOSH examiner, which
Right.
I do mark question papers there. But what I realized that majority of people or candidates,
Right.
the approach they have with this open book assessment or whatever, the
Yeah.
approach is not that okay. They believe that it's just an open book. I can pass
Yeah.
easily. I can do it.
Yeah.
But my comparison with when we did our own IGC, I
Yeah.
can see that the passing rate is too high.
Yeah.
Failure rate now is too high to when we did our own in the exam room.
Right.
But what I realized that what they are what they are writing, or they are not after what NEBOSH tree or the market scheme really want them to write. The approach to the question, to the scenario, for not understanding this scenario very well before they dabble into the question, writing it. We advise the DSS as well from the side, if you can lay much emphasis in the approach, how they are going to tackle the question or whatever, because I believe the approach given to the IGC may still be almost similar to the diploma as well. Which with that, I think you have said all. You mentioned about the marking scheme. You mentioned some other how to be successful in that regard. Thanks to you, and thanks to DISS.
Right.
Best of luck.
Thank you very much, dear, for your encouraging comment. Just to update you, the pass rate for IGC with DSS this year, we are maintaining 70% and plus. Even the last month results were out, and 70% of the student passed in that regard. As far as the diploma is concerned, I will be honest with you, the pass rate is 50% as of now. But that is why I said that we are working on the revision classes, and we are trying our best. I'm personally looking after that one to ensure that student understand from day one what is diploma, what are the challenges in that one, how they're going to attempt the exam. And if you would have any opportunity to attend our revision class for either for IGC or diploma, you would know that how much emphasis, just like today I have put in on the study. The student need to study, they need to work hard, they need to understand NEBOSH requirement, they need to understand the marking scheme. All of this thing we are doing, and I think by the grace of God, that is why we have reached the pass percentage of 70%. Not only that one, I was really overjoyed in January. There were 8 distinctions in IGC. And the Canner, the student I mentioned for the IDIP, this is our highest score, 82%. In diploma, getting 82% is a huge score. It's not an ordinary thing in that regard. Normally people get 50, 55, 60 marks in that regard. So that is a huge achievement, and we are proud of it that we will continue to work hard, and definitely, just like I said, that we are happier when our students succeed, right? We want them to succeed in the first attempt. That is the motto that what we are working, and we are thankful. I'm especially thankful to all of my student majority I'm seeing here as well. The respect they give us, the understanding they have with us, and when we guide them, they follow the advice, and definitely, they would be more successful in their professional and personal life as well. So thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Any more questions? Okay. So I think we're all good with all the questions, Mr. Azar.
Yes, we can
Yeah,
wrap
right.
up this session. Thank you.
Yes, so again, everyone, thank you for joining us, and we hope that, this session ignited your motivation to pursue your NEBOSH Level 6 diploma. And also a quick reminder, I have also posted it in our chat room that we have the schedules for the upcoming NEBOSH diploma and the per units schedule as well. And also, one more thing, it's a good thing, please grab our promotion, we still have our summer promo. So for those who would want to enroll, please send us a message via WhatsApp 74780073 or email info@diss.com.qa or marketing1@diss.com.qa. Or you can always check our social media platform. And with regard to the recording of this session, it will be shared to you via email. Don't worry. And it will also be posted on all our social media platforms and our YouTube accounts. All right. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Stay safe, everyone, and have a great Friday afternoon.
Right. Thank you very much,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Bye.